What is so funny?
You see important religious figures from the point of view of higher states of consciousness?
Wait, what's that?
Do you see important religious figures from the point of view of higher states of consciousness?
Give me an example.
Fra Bed Griffiths was a very famous Benedictine monk who studied in India for 37 years. He eventually came to the conclusion that Christianity shared more with some Eastern exponents of religion than with Judaism. The reason simply being that there was a tradition existed that allowed one to see important religious figures from the point of view of higher states of consciousness. Would you say you, Herschel, Rabbs, Reamer, are continually evolving to higher and higher states of consciousness?
I'd like to think that I was. I don't know.
True Jews don't talk about higher states of consciousness. These are Goyisher ideas. Did Rabbi Miller talk to you about higher states of consciousness? No, I don't think so. He talked to you about higher states of observance. Higher states of consciousness. This is Goyisher.
I don't know. I don't even know what it is, so I have no opinion.
Rabbs writes, I understand that the Jewish focus is not on the world to come. However, Jews have an ontological concern. Would you agree?
Ontological?
This is how the Goyim write.
The world to come? Okay, let me tell you about the world to come. Jews don't talk much about the world to come. And there's a good reason for it. Torah, no, but this is an interesting thing. It's a good question. Judaism is focused on this world right now. Rabbs, prove your numbers.
Don't worry about that. I've got it. We'll come back with stats next week. We don't have stats right now.
Prove your numbers? I can prove it.
But you can't cite sources now. You can email them to me. I'll post it on the blog.
Okay.
So can carry on.
You know, the simplest thing is look up the what's it called? The Jewish survey, whatever it's called.
Jewish population survey.
Look up the Jewish population survey from 2000. It talks about the birth rates for you know whatever, and it talks about that the highest birth rates. The numbers are right there. It talks about like the Fermis have the highest ones. I think they said it was like an average of 6. But when they say that, that means like the modern Orthodox are having like 4. You know, and everybody in Monroe is having 12. You know, so it averages like 6 to 8 or something. And if you do the numbers, I mean, I've worked it out. Just do the numbers yourself. Get out a calculator and figure out, and you start off, with whatever. There's like probably somewhere between 1 million and 2 million Fermi Jews in this country, and you do the numbers. Each one is going to have each 2. They're going to have 2. Everybody's going to partner, and they're going to have this, and take it down 2 generations, and you're going to see this gigantic number develop. It's not, I'm not making this up. It's a gigantic number that develops.
Yeah.
And the reason why it becomes 95% is because look what's happening with the seculars. The seculars, they're averaging like 2.1 kids, which barely preserves what you had from the generation before. So if you had, how many Jews in America? 6 million or something? 5 million? 4 million?
Yeah, 5 million.
5 million, okay. So if you had 5 million and 3 million, let's say 3.5 million were secular, that's all you're ever going to have. And it's never going to get more than that. And if the other side of it is exponentially growing, it only takes like 3 or 4 generations, and they're 95%.
So why doesn't the Torah and Judaism talk about the afterlife? Did you finish that?
Oh, the afterlife. Because it's not a Jewish sock to talk about that. Torah wants you to think about what's happening in this world. It's the 613 mitzvahs. Remember we talked about that the universe was created so that the Jews can follow the 613. Is dealing in this world. This is a handbook how to survive in this world. It's brought down that a person should spend the amount of energy thinking about in his daily life should correspond to how much God talks about it in the Torah. There's about 2,000 pages of Talmud. Talmud is the oral Torah.
Yeah.
In all of that, there's thousands of pages, right? 2,000 pages.
Yeah.
In all of that, I believe there's only 6 references that talks about the Messiah.
Yeah.
It's just not the Messianic times to come are not really talked about. If you take numbers, we're talking about calculators. Sit back. Okay. If you take a calculator and worked out the numbers of 6 into 2,000, it's tiny. It's less than 1%.
Yeah.
It's less than 1% of a person's time they should spend thinking about or talking about times to come.
Yeah.
We don't focus on that. That means if you slept 8 hours a day and you're awake for 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
right? How much of that time, of the 16 hours, would you designate to thinking about times to come, the times of the Messiah?
Not much.
Not much. It's going to come out to a couple minutes. And you know what? You don't get rollover minutes on my plan.
Yeah.
So that's it. You know, in your day, you can only really think about that stuff for maybe a minute or two. That's not really what Judaism is about. Torah doesn't focus on those kind of things. You know, other religions are all like, you know, what's going to happen when I get to the other side, and what's going to happen, you know, when the Messiah. What happens when the Messiah comes? What happens when I die? Do I have 72 virgins? You know,
right.
There's a lot of focus in other religions about the future, and Judaism says, you know what? There's a lot more to worry about right now, because right now, you know, you've got, you know. Are you going to daven Ma'ariv? God's more worried about that.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do tonight? You're going to say Shema? What are you going to do?
What would you say are the major metaphysical challenges that religion faces today? According to Greg Leake, they are the enlightenment experience and the near-death experience.
No.
Have you experienced enlightenment?
No. You know what he's talking about? A personal religious experience.
Yeah.
You know, it says, like, you know, Winston Churchill says there's no atheists in a foxhole, because people have what's called a religious awakening when they're in certain life-threatening events.
Yeah.
But Judaism doesn't define itself as a personal religion that way.
Yeah.
We don't feel God, so we become more from or something.
Yeah.
You know, ours is based on knowledge,
Not on feelings and experiences. Woo woo.
I'm going to say that ours is based on knowledge. Judaism is not a religion of how you feel. Judaism is a religion of knowing that this is the truth and understanding Torah philosophy, and following that, knowing that the Torah is the truth and the reason a person is created is to follow the Torah. That's what we follow. That's why we keep the Torah.
Yeah.
So to become more quote unquote religious would mean to spend more time contemplating and understanding what Torah philosophy says. If you don't even know there's a Torah philosophy, you've already lost the war.
What perspective does the Enlightenment experience bring to the pronouncement of saviors and profound religious teaching? We don't look for saviors in Judaism.
We don't have one.
We earn our way. People don't save us.
We don't have saviors.
We don't have saviors.
We have a savior. We say it on our davening. During our prayers, we say, our savior is God. The Redeemer, the Savior of the Jewish people is God himself.
I would say that the problem for Jews in respect to Jesus ben Yosef is to determine the efficacy of his ministry, irrespective of whether it fits into the Messiah context. I think we've dealt with that. We've dealt with Jesus quite enough. Greg Lee came on here watching our Torah talks expecting to find mutuality. Instead he finds antithesis.
Well, depends what you're looking for. You know, if you're looking for, you know what that's all. You know what that is? That is the liberal agenda. You know, I'm not